Hi, my name is Steve Rahi. I am a customer engineer focused on management technologies. Today's discussion is part 6 of an ongoing series focused on endpoint protection in Configuration Manager, which of course is part of Endpoint Manager. Today's discussion focuses on exploit guard policies. So as we get started with this, here's the agenda. Before we jump in, a bit of discussion really about setting context, I guess, for this discussion. So why are we discussing this? Well, certainly because the ability to configure exploit guard settings and so on is a capability that is part of Configuration Manager. So awareness there, awareness really of built-in capabilities, both in Configuration Manager. We'll get to Intune as well, not in this session, but later on. And built-in capabilities in Windows that you can leverage. Potential cost savings that go along with that. If you have certain license levels, you may very well already own license to use these capabilities. And so definitely take a look at that and see E5 generally should be licensed across the board for this. And then the other part, again, awareness around a capability in Configuration Manager, but kind of part of that discussion. These are security features that we're talking about with endpoint protection, and very often security features are managed by a unique team inside organizations. So this is where role-based access control is a really awesome capability in Configuration Manager, in Intune as well. So you can, if this is interesting to you, tailor the console for your security professionals so that they can have access to do what they need to do without being overwhelmed and confused potentially by some of the other aspects, of the console, right? And then another piece, you may have third-party tools in place to take care of some of this, and that's okay. Still want to raise awareness of it. There may be some scenarios where it would make sense to use these built-in features for a unique set of devices, as an example, maybe remote workers, whatever the scenario may be. And so learning about them, knowing they're out there, making your security professionals aware of them, probably already are, but just in case, and giving them access, it just increases the value of what you might be able to deliver to your organization through what's built into Windows 10 and what's built into Configuration Manager. So another thing, this session is absolutely not a deep dive into exploit guard, not at all. We will mention a little bit of exploit guard just to set context, but this session is focused on using Configuration Manager to configure and deploy exploit guard policies, right? To do that, to really understand what we're doing, we need to understand a little bit about what exploit guard is. We'll do that in the next slide, but this is totally focused beyond that on Configuration Manager managing exploit guard policies. So what is exploit guard? Well, this is a big section we're just going to brush right over because this could take a couple of sessions on its own to really get into exploit guard. Effectively, exploit guard works in 4 areas. So intrusion protection for users with Windows 10, being able to monitor what's going on, prevent intrusions. This also will work with Windows Defender Security Center, basically a component of Windows Defender Security Center that's on the OS. Windows 10 Fall Creators Update. Exploit guard basically was included with Windows 10 Fall Creators Update, so that is well in the rearview mirror now as we talk about this. So most organizations most likely will have a version of Windows 10 later than the Fall Creators Update, so that should not be an issue at all. Now, this suite protects against a bunch of things. It protects against attack surface reduction. Well, it works toward attack surface reduction. So all of these that you're about to hear, attack surface reduction, controlled folder access, exploit protection, network protection, all work in conjunction with Windows Defender Antivirus, right? So this is just an additional capability that partners with Defender antivirus, but attack surface reduction focuses on minimizing the attack surface of an application. So, for example, this can help stop Office, mail, and script-based malware in your deployments, right? Controlled folder access. So this is a way to protect files in system folders from malicious applications that might be out there. Exploit protection. So this works to protect applications. If there are known exploits, then Exploit Guard will work with Windows Defender antivirus and third-party antivirus solutions to reduce the severity of possible outbreaks. And then finally, network protection is a focus on covering network traffic on organizations' devices by extending malware protection from Windows Defender Smart Screen in Microsoft Edge, right? And again, all four of those require Defender antivirus to be in place as well. And that literally is all we're going to talk about in terms of the capabilities of Exploit Guard. Again, big gaping hole here to fill with other research and so on, because really our focus is all about Configuration Manager and how it can manage Exploit Guard policies. And so that's where we turn now. So what are Exploit Guard policies? So effectively, Exploit Guard policies are Exploit Guard configurations that you configure for devices in your enterprise. Exploit Guard policies can be delivered through enterprise management tools like Configuration Manager, which is our scope here, Intune, which we'll talk about later, right? And that's where Config Manager clearly comes into play, enterprise management tool, these capabilities being able to deploy to Configuration Manager clients. So why do we care about this? Well, big reason is it's integrated. This is a capability you have, right? Knowing about it, making choices about when to use it, where to use it, etc., a big deal, right? The capabilities that this has. So Defender Exploit Guard will utilize the capabilities of Microsoft Intelligence Security Graph and the world-class security research team that we have at Microsoft to identify and solve exploits and common behaviors that might be needed to stop these types of attacks at various stages of the kill chain, right? Now, yes, that was exactly out of our documentation, but that is a really, really good reason about why to use Exploit Guard, why to use Config Manager to configure Exploit Guard policies. And then in terms of requirements, so first of all, Exploit Guard needs to be enabled. This is a feature and capability in Configuration Manager. It is an optional feature. It is not turned on by default. So in order for it to show up in the console, you need to enable this feature and restart the console, right? Always on protection. So this enables Exploit Guard policies require always on protection. So this is Defender ATP, always on protection, needs to be enabled in order to support certain features such as attack surface reduction, controlled folder access, network protection. And we just talked about in the previous session Defender ATP. So there too, we did not dig into the details of Defender ATP. We did talk about how to use Configuration Manager to onboard devices into Defender ATP. And so this is another little piece there where always on protection from Defender ATP needs to be enabled. We need Windows 10, 1709 or better, and we need settings that will enable Exploit Guard, and we'll see what those settings are in a bit, right? Okay, so now we get to the configuring part, which is where we start to look at what's needed. So I'm going to show you the settings that you will need to have enabled on a device. I'm going to show them to you using group policy. There is no specific requirement to use group policy to enable these settings. There's a lot of devices, more and more coming on that will not be domain joined. They may just be workgroup machines. And so being able to turn on these settings through local policy is an option. Being able to use something like Configuration Manager compliance settings or Intune or whatever to deploy these settings, even if it's just a registry key, is important. So let me go ahead and pull in the Windows 10 client that we're going to use for our demo. And where is the VM? There it is. Okay, so here's my Windows 10 client. And so to see these settings, I'm just going to launch MMC. This is, again, local policy. Come on, MMC, launch. Okay, I will launch it this way. I probably need to reboot this VM, but that's okay. We will do it this way. And I'm going to add remove snap-in. And then I'm going to use group policy object editor, add that in, and for the local computer, and I am good. Cool. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to expand a couple of things. And so under local computer policy, I want to go to computer configuration and then specifically administrative templates. And then after or in administrative templates, I care about Windows components as soon as this launches, Windows components. And then under Windows components, I'm going to scroll all the way down to Windows Defender Antivirus. And that's where I'm going to find a good portion of my settings. So again, I mentioned this has to work in conjunction with Windows Defender Antivirus. And so there's a number of settings that need to be enabled. You will see a lot of them here. Allow malware service to start up with normal priority. That's needed. This allow malware service to remain running always. That needs to be disabled. That's actually enabled. That's interesting. That needs to be disabled. In the real-time protection folder. So if we expand out Defender Antivirus, we will see real-time protection in here. Right here. All right. So in that folder, we have a few settings that need to be enabled as well, such as turn on behavior monitoring. That needs to be enabled. Now, I don't have all of these enabled because, again, I'm not really doing this in my lab, but this would need to be enabled. Turn on behavior monitoring. Scan all downloaded files and attachments would be enabled. Monitor file and program activity on your computer would need to be enabled. It is. Turn on new volume write notifications, which needs to be enabled. It is. Turn on process scanning whenever real-time protection is enabled, needs to be enabled. Define the maximum size of downloaded files and attachments to be scanned, needs to be enabled. Make that column a bit bigger, so going on down the list. Configure local setting override for scanning all downloaded files and attachments. Here needs to be enabled. Configure a local setting override for monitoring file and program security down here needs to be enabled. Configure local setting override to turn on real-time protection needs to be enabled. And then configure setting local setting override for monitoring of incoming and outgoing file activity needs to be enabled. This one, configure monitoring for incoming and outgoing file or program activity needs to be enabled. It is currently disabled, so again, my lab machine, but still we'll see what we need to see. And then finally, under scan folder, where is scan folder? Let me see. Right in front of me, right here, scan. So just one policy needs to be enabled here. Turn on heuristics. I never can say that word here. So it is enabled. So those are the settings that need to be enabled on your device. Now that was a great fun tour, I know, to go through that. But those are the settings that need to be enabled. Now, how you do that again doesn't really have to be policy. Could be doing it locally, could be a script, could be whatever mechanism you would choose to do it. Config manager, compliance policies, Intune, whatever. But those are the ones that do need to be enabled. Now, in terms of actually enabling this, getting things ready on the config manager side, so what we need to do is in the console of our site server, under assets and compliance, which is where we launch by default, we'll go down to Endpoint Protection. And under Endpoint Protection, we have Exploit Guard Policies. I've actually got one already created here. And so if I want to, I can go create a new one, give it a name, whatever I would like, blah, I'm not going to save it. And here are the 4 areas of Exploit Guard that I might want to configure. So one of these I'm going to have to turn off in just a second because it will require an external configuration. But here, under Advanced Surface, Attack Surface Reduction, we have the ability to configure various settings. Not going to go through all of these. I don't have any of them configured right now. I can set different files and folders that I care about excluding from the Attack Surface Reduction feature. I can deal with controlled folder access and decide what I want to do. Do I want to configure it? Do I want to block it? Do I want to do auditing? What do I want to do? Right? And then allow access to controlled folders, and I can specify the list here, and additional protected folders, I can specify a list here. Again, not configuring. To really configure, that's going to take interaction with your security team. Pretty easy, though, to figure out how to configure it. The other thing I'll call out is that a lot of these endpoint protection features have the ability to do auditing. So it will tell you kind of what the experience is going to be if you turn something on before actually turning it on. And then next, exploit protection. Here's where I would need an XML configuration file, which I don't have. And so I'm going to go back and turn this off so it's not on the list. And then finally, network protection settings. What I want to do. Do I want to configure network protection settings, block it, audit it, disable it, whatever I would care to do? And then that's it. It's pretty simple to configure these policies. And I'm not going to save this, I already have one. It's pretty easy to configure these policies, right? This is not difficult. This is, again, let's give acknowledgement to the fact that we are excising from this discussion all of the pieces of this that will really go into the exploit guard capabilities, and your security team or other folks will want to tell you what to configure and give you that detail. But once you have that, it's not hard to configure it in your environment, or they can configure it directly if you give them rights to be able to do that directly. Once we have it configured, we're going to deploy it. And so this one is deployed. You'll right click and deploy, and it's really easy. All you do is choose the device collection that you want to choose, and you see that it's just device collections, right? And that's it. And you see I have a deployment here already created to my Windows 10 systems. It's called Demo Exploit Guard Policies. So we'll put that in the back of our mind. And that's really it. It's not that hard to configure. Then under monitoring, if you want to monitor what's going on, we can go under security. And then under security, if I get back down to it, we can see different things that might be of interest to us. So let's see. So that's right. This doesn't actually have a node under security. You can see that there's a lot of endpoint protection pieces that do have some monitoring capabilities under security. The ATP status is here for sure, but there's no exploit guard specific entry. There is the ability to monitor this though, because if we switch forward to the kind of in-action piece walkthrough, there's not a whole lot to show here, but anytime I do a configuration like this, I'm kind of curious how it gets implemented on the client side. And so here it's really easy. This is under the assets and compliance umbrella. And so compliance settings are part of that configuration set. This is not necessarily a subcomponent of compliance settings, but it's in the same section. And so thinking through that, I'm thinking, well, this is probably coming onto the client in a compliance setting. So I went to the client and looked at it. And in fact, if we look at our Windows 10 machine and go to the control panel here, and then pop open the Configuration Manager Client applet, then indeed look at configurations. We do have the demo exploit guard policy here. And so that is, in fact, a way that you can confirm that this configuration has made its way down to the client machine. You can ultimately troubleshoot this just like any other compliance policy if you need to. You can view the report if you need to. There's not a ton here, but you can see that it's compliant. If there's an issue somehow, you can maybe vet that out through the normal compliance settings logs. If you need to get down to the XML level and see the exact configuration that has gone down to your device, that's possible in the database as well. Just collaborate with Microsoft support if you need to do that, and they can help you, right? So again, this is not a complex thing. The complexity really lies in defining what you want to evaluate with Exploit Guard, and that will take collaboration with your security team or giving your security team rights to be able to do what they need to do in the console, right? But on the config manager side, it's not hard. So that kind of wraps us up on that side, and starting to move toward the end of this in terms of troubleshooting tips and tricks. So troubleshooting, already mentioned, this is running through compliance settings. So compliance settings and the related logs are what you will use there. Exploit Guard, already mentioned, supports audit mode. So basically what this will do is allow you to kind of go through what Exploit Guard is going to do, but it's not going to actually take any action. What it will do instead is it will write data to the event log on the device, and then you can review the data that Exploit Guard has written there to see what actions it would have taken, right? Exploit Guard is actually configured by default in Windows 10. So a lot of that configuration that I walked you through, yeah, I would want to check that, but it very likely is already turned on for you in Windows 10. So that saves you a big piece of configuration there. There's multiple ways you can enable it. Mentioned it. So config manager can be used, Intune can be used, group policy can be used. You can use Windows Security app. You can use the MDM configuration channel without Intune if for some reason you have a third-party MDM provider. If you want to use that channel directly, you can do that. You can use PowerShell. A lot of different options to be able to get that piece out there, right? And then again, we do fully support audit mode. It's possible to set audit mode as you've seen in the console. You can also use the Windows Security app to do it, and you can use PowerShell if you want to get that done. So there's a lot of capabilities here. It's not hard to configure. Definitely take a look at it and see what kind of benefit you can bring to your organization with this tool. And that said, this wraps up the session for today. So thank you for hanging out, and we will see you next time.